Hey ho, this is Øystein from Borknagar. This is Sonic Perspective.
Thank you so much for joining us, Øystein. I've been binge listening to your upcoming album Fall for the past several days, and I have a lot of questions. But before we start talking about that, I was wondering if you could reflect on that 2020 tour that took place 2 years later
The 2020 tour.
with Rotting Christ in the United
Oh
States.
yeah. I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. Yeah. Yeah, sure thing. We did I guess we released True North in September, late 19, I guess it was something like that.
Hmm.
I think it was September. And we was actually at that point planning, basically a world tour. We was first going with the Rotten Christ to the US, and then we were supposed to do a bunch of European festivals, and we were supposed to do European tour and East European tour, and we were supposed to go to Australia and Japan, I think, and the whole shebang.
Hmm.
But yeah, we was rehearsing. We spent the money for lawyers and working visas and everything, and shitloads of money, and yeah, rehearsed for days and weeks and prepared for the tour. And then yeah, what was it? We were supposed to fly to the US Tuesday, I think. The Friday before or Thursday before,
Hmm.
everything was shut down. I remember I was waking up one morning and I watched my phone and I just got a message, a picture from our manager
Uh-huh.
with a picture of the front page of, I don't remember the newspaper, but the New York Times or something like that, with Trump, US closed.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was of course that was kind of we was a little bit shell shocked, I have to admit, in hindsight, because we spent a lot of time and planning and all the whole thing, getting this tour going.
Hmm.
And for a European band, touring in the US is quite complicated because you need working visas, you need social security numbers and things like that. So well, yeah, we spent a few days scratching our head and what's next. And nobody at that time knew the gravity of it, how long it would last, and stuff like that. And then we, together with the devastation of the nation, the team and our manager and all the people involved, the first round we tried to just change the 2020 to 2021, but the same dates and same venues.
Hmm.
And then we found out that 21 doesn't work either. So I think we came to a point where we just decided to cancel because there was no, purpose on keeping, because a lot of, I think, venues and clubs was shutting down and bankruptcy and stuff like that. And then we kind of okay, let us just go. And but then after a while, I think that there was some light in the end of the tunnel. And I remember, I think it was Daniel from Devastation that just sent us all, I think, Martin Christ and us and everybody involved, a message. Shall we try again? And we was like, yes. Everybody was like, yes, let's go. And then we did, another attempt to. But as in our case, we needed to get new another, round with the lawyers and working visas and stuff.
Jeez.
But it was worth the hassle. It was, but it was some weird years. And
Yeah.
of course, we survived, and no problems. But of course, we lost shitloads of money on that. So
Ugh.
it was tough.
Yeah, that was tough for everybody.
Yeah.
Like personally, for me, Borknagar had been on my bucket list for over 2 decades.
Oh man.
And it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. And by the time that the show in Austin finally took place, I I was awake over 20 hours that day because of work. I had to leave work, go straight to the venue. I caught you guys. I chatted with you and Lars for a little bit, and then I left because I had to go back to work. And it was totally worth it. I have zero regrets. I also didn't sleep very much that night.
Oh man. Life sometimes sometimes life is a bitch.
Yeah.
It's
I'm so glad that this didn't like bankrupt the band because you guys offer something so unique. you know, in extreme metal that and it would have been an absolute shame to lose that. So I'm really grateful that you guys persevered and continued, and like the band is still together and you guys are making new music. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. For me, this is a life commitment, and as long as my heart beat, the music will, I will keep on doing music. But of course, sometimes it's rough. I know those years was, of course, rough. One thing is the economical side. I mean, for us, luckily, we have been around for so many years. We have done so many albums that, that didn't really kind of break us, so to speak, economically or otherwise. But of course, I knew a lot of bands. I know a lot of bands that have, Corona, yeah, made life really, really difficult, and they had to, get other jobs and stuff like that. So yeah, it was tough, but it was, I would say, definitely worth it. I mean, the US tour with Rotten Christ was a blast. It was really cool tour. We had a really good time, and lovely guys to travel with, and we had such a great time on the road. So
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are
I'm
absolute
happy we
gentlemen.
made it.
Yes, me too. I noticed that I wasn't expecting Øystein to handle some of the harsh vocals in the live setting. That was a pleasant surprise, and like watching him and Bjorn together on stage, the two new guys in the band,
Mm.
it felt like they'd been there for decades already, just because they were so on it. How do you think that they've adapted to the band? Because they've been in it for like what, since 2018 or so?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think there was kind of they came into the picture pretty much in the middle of the process of making True North.
Hmm.
I think we all the songs were written at that time and kind of mapped out in a sense.
Hmm.
And then I think the first thing, of course, we rehearsed a little bit, had some sessions together, but I think one of the first things Björn did was actually going to studio record drums. So he didn't have that much time to adapt to the music and
Hmm.
to make his footprint on the music, maybe on True North. But this time around, the guys is much more integrated. We know each other as
Hmm.
musicians, but also as persons and stuff in a completely different level now. And we are, I would say, we are by now a really tight bunch of people that we are very different. Everybody of us, I think, is quite different, but we also kind of, we in a weird way, we work extremely well together these days, and it's just a pleasure working with the guys. I feel really privileged about the situation, and Björn and Jostein in specific, those guys, they are so damn professional.
Hmm.
It's the only way I can say it really. They just take the music so damn serious, and they really sit down and rehearse, and they walk the extra mile to make things yeah, work basically,
Hmm.
because that is sometimes in the music business in general, I would say, is that people sometimes ask me, how do you make it, what's your tip to a newcomer band or something like that, and I tend to always answer that if you want to make it in the music business, okay is not good enough. You have to be really, really up there, and you have to always walk the extra mile. That's the only way to get anywhere in this business, I would argue.
Hmm.
So they have adapted so well to the band, and of course their footprint on the new album Fall is, of course, way more, yeah,
Yeah.
present and integrated and more sophisticated in general, I would say.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. This is your first album with them already like established within the band.
Mm.
Did they have how involved were they in the songwriting and arrangement process?
I've always had this philosophy about my bandmates that I want to, exploit their sounds bad, but I want to kind of utilize the most all the potential there is.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
would be a waste not using Björn's drummer skills, and it would be a waste not using the full potential of Jostein as a guitarist. So I've always stretch as far as I can. To make them, involved in the music, the creation of the music, giving them the space enough to do their stuff, time enough in studio, if that's matter. If I
Hmm.
need to send somebody to the North Pole to record some guitar on North Pole, we will do it. You know,
I'm getting Death Clock vibes from that.
That was, yes, and just to make a point, I guess. But yeah, and in this case, and with the new album, as an example, another example with Øystein, for example,
Mhm.
I wrote like 5 of the 8 songs on the album, and my songs I didn't send to the other guys. I sent it first to Øystein because I wanted Øystein into the picture of arranging, the guitar work of the songs before the other ones get to listen, because I wanted him to, um, what can I say, work in parallel with me, in a sense, as a guitarist, as a fellow guitarist. So he instead of, as on True North, that was more kind of he came into the picture a little bit late. We was already, the album was half done basically, and he added some guitars here and there, and he did his stuff here and there. But this time around, I kind of invited him much earlier into the process of arranging riffs and, all that stuff. So that was a beautiful process, really great, creative, amazing. And, I have to say it, that Björn and Øystein is just brilliant musicians, and of course, very, very good friends. So, yeah.
Yeah, Øystein actually brought in one of the more surprising moments on the album, for me anyway. The very opening of The While Lingers, he's got a solo that almost sounds jazzy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I don't know. It's of course, my subjective, my taste, but I just love his tone. When he can just play a flat E and it sounds killer. It's I don't know. I don't know what he does, whether it's his guitar or his fingers or his, whatever. But yeah, he has, in my opinion, though, he has this very, very classic, universal approach to music. It's kind of, he don't fasten up in any genre, or he don't kind of copy paste other. He has such a, I don't know, he's just such a brilliant guitarist. I love this way of thinking guitar and playing guitar, and just the way it sounds. It sounds amazing. And I agree, he is able to kind of, as me, he is basically a metal musician, been the whole life, but still is able to, catch these qualities of also different kinds of music, in a sense. And I think that, that is a very cool thing. Talking about myself, for example, I've always been very fascinated by folk music, but I've never wanted to make folk music, if you get my point. I wanted to be the magic, the vibe of folk music into my music somehow. But I don't want to make, folk music with electric guitars. That's not my style. But I want somehow to integrate the flavor of folk music, in a sense. But the same goes in my case for prog rock and all that kind of music as well. So yeah.
So what you just said about folk music kind of leads to a question that I had about the song Nordic Anthem. It's that, like, I'm not an expert on Nordic folk music, but I get Nordic folk music vibes from that intro. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a song written by Lars, and there was kind of it's kind of started out as a kind of a part 2 of this song called Voices on True North. But it kind of, instead of the volume on Voices is like on 1, but on kind of Nordic Anthem, the volume is on kind of 10 instead, So that kind of moved. The more we worked on that song, the more kind of it moved by very analog, actually, into the more kind of folkish atmosphere. And I remember I was producing all the percussion going on that song, for example, in my studio here. And yeah, it kind of turned out a little bit with a folkish vibe to it. But still, I don't think it is it doesn't really carry any folk melody, in my opinion, if you get my point.
Okay.
It's more the flavor. And again, it's kind of crucial for me, because I tend to not. I mean, back in the day, I loved bands like Skyclad and the more folkish kind of band with violins and stuff like that. And I still do. But in the same way, I didn't want to be such a kind of band. I wanted to be, I wanted some of the notion, the quality of the folk music, the feeling of it. but I don't want to, you know, play folk music, if you get my point.
Yeah,
It's maybe it's weird way of saying it, but I've always been very fascinated in music general. I was always been very fascinated by trying to extract the signature of different musical styles in a sense. I don't want to copy jazz or prog rock or folk music for that side, or even classic music, but I want to somehow try to capture the nerve of it, the feel of it, in a sense. And whether we success or not, I don't know, but at least that's has been a goal.
Well, personally, I love it, but that's just me.
Thank you, sir.
So Lars wrote that one. He took the lead vocal on that one. He took the lead vocal on Voices on True North. I've been seeing more and more of him taking the lead vocal role, and in the video for Nordic Anthem, he's even featured as the front man. How did this come about?
Those things we don't really discuss too much. I mean, to be honest, we as a band, we kind of, I mean, me, Lars, and Simon, we have known each other forever, basically. We have worked together forever also, feels like. I mean, even though Simon was in Dimmu for many years, I've known Simon since he was like, he was 19, 20 years old or something like that. So we kind of work like an entity in a sense, musical, creative entity in a sense, and things just happen. And I think for me, and for us, over the years, we have done this for such a long time. I've been writing music for 30 years now. When people ask me, how did this and that song come about? And I'm like, I don't know. I just did it, It just happened. Oops, I did it again. Kind of thing. But I don't know. It just happens. And I think that is some of the beauty with music sometimes. And especially these days when back in the days, when we recorded the first albums, we went off to one studio, one place, spent like 2 weeks there recording and mixing the album. Everything had to be done, quite efficiently, and just, okay, it's good enough, keep it, next, blah blah blah. And then we this whole digital age came as a flood, and all of a sudden everybody have access to a computer and a sound card and can sit recording at home, and including us. We did the same thing as well. But doing that, you lose a little bit of this in the moment magic kind of thing, I would say. Things tends to become too much planned, and people spend too much time on things, and this and that. So when we have done, especially for True North and also Fall, we tried to, even though we still have the same technology and even better now and blah blah and all that, but we try to rig the whole process in a way that we have more of those moments where a thing just happens. With Nordic Anthem, we had the scratch of the song. We produced it quite, I produced, for example, the percussion and stuff, and Lars had the vocals. And then we sit together here and listening to the song. Me, Lars, and Simon, we did the vocals in this room actually. And we just start on the top and see what happens. We have some rough ideas, we have some thoughts, but it ended up like it did. And for that song, that was a natural choice. That was a natural way of going with that song, so to speak. Simon is still present on vocal, but it's just backing vocal, so to speak. So I think it's cool. I think it shows, a diverse side of the band. And, it's very in our nature to do it like this, I would say.
I think I also heard Lars and Simon duetting on, what is it, on Stars Ablaze?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So what tipped that off? I mean, because like you guys, some of the guys in the band have shared lead vocals before, like on Win or Thrice, and then here you are doing it again. I love it, but that's not something that you see very often in extreme metal. Although you're seeing it more and more, but is there a motivation behind that?
I think the motivation is back to your, we talked about it earlier, that, I want to utilize the potential of the band, And if there is a great idea about a song or a lyric or a vocal line, or that is the winner. If you get my point, it's I mean, it's not entirely democratic, this band, because, you know, I have the final say on thing, and I also have a firm grip on the productional side of things. I'm kind of listed as a producer because I spend hours and hours here trying different sounds and different guitar sounds and how
Hmm.
to mix it and how to do all these things and how to arrange songs and stuff like that. But apart from that, I think that, you know, it's you know, sometimes I say that, you know, for me, it's the whole music thing. For me, it's about honesty in a sense. You know, I just want to do whatever I feel like doing as a musician. That's a very important notion to me. This
Hmm.
musical artistic freedom, and let the music lead the way in a sense. You know,
Hmm.
so it works a little bit like that. We don't sit down with a meeting up front. Of course, we have a meetings and we sit discussing things, but we don't sit down around a table having an official meeting and writing down who is doing what and how many songs and that kind of, we don't do that kind of stuff. We have
Hmm.
rough plans. We have kind of, you know, the scratches of songs. We have some ideas. We have some keywords. We have some working titles for different, you know, songs and even the album sometimes. And then we just jump into the whole soup of ideas, so to say, and then try to find our way through it and make a killer album. And you know, that is the only you know, that is the not the only, but that's a very important and one of the you know, notions of this. I mean, for me, music, it starts with music and ends with music. Everything else in this world, in the music business, is kind of secondary. I
Hmm.
mean, of course, touring is important, doing interviews and promo and all that is important stuff, but for me, it's all about, you know, in the end of the day, it's about the music and somehow let it flow in a sense.
Hmm.
And this idea I have with honesty is for me that I've always, you know, been striving to yeah, if people ask me, for example, what kind of influences, I mean, life. To me,
Hmm.
life is influence. That's my influence. I mean, and I mean it because in the sense that, you know, I think that the really good music in my ears is the
Hmm.
music that somehow resembles a human life. I mean,
Hmm.
all the ups, all the downs, all the, you know, all the sunny days, all the rainy days, and all this in between, these facets of a human life in a sense.
Hmm.
That's something. I want to have that diversity, that spectrum into my music in a sense. Um, so yeah, I rather kind of regard my music as a musical adventure rather than some kind of musical entertainment, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. I'm more on that kind of the scale.
Right.
But I never really seen myself as an entertainer. I would never be a stand-up comedian or anything like that. That's so far away from me you can ever come.
Hmm.
And I even feel, even to this day, I feel sometimes weird about being on a stage. But I feel more like I'm kind of an what can I say, guide of adventure. I want people to not only be entertained by the music, but also have some sort of experience. You know,
Hmm.
that some way make a positive impact on the listener's life.
I absolutely believe that you succeed on that front. Something you said a moment ago, kind of led me to something else that I wanted to ask. The name of the new album is Fall, and that just immediately makes me think of how reverence for nature plays such a big role in what Borknagar is about.
Yeah, you know, you know, again about this honesty thing. This, I don't force anything. I don't try to pretend. I don't act. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not a stand-up comedian, you know. So that said, I mean, for me, it's very important in my musical expression to be somehow real and natural and not forced. That's why I always use my own name. I've never used corpse paint. You know, the band have no literal meaning. Um, yeah, what was your question again? Sorry, man.
Oh, no, you're good. Reverence for nature, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and you know, in that, you know, in that, under that kind of philosophy, it's the most natural thing in my world, or in my
Mhm.
existence, my life,
Mhm.
is to express myself through nature. I've grown up in nature. My father was a mountaineer, I still live in nature. I have a house far out on the countryside. I always been fascinated by all the complexity and beauty of nature. And you know, if I gonna in some or another way, if I was a painter, I was most likely be a painter of mountains and trees and those things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested in drawing cars or houses or people on the beach. You know, that wouldn't be my thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would feel forced for me because I'm not a beach guy, you know. So it's that kind of simple in one way that it's about the honesty, but it's also the as you said, my reverence for nature. I've always found nature as my place of you know, relaxation, you know, inspiring and all that. I grew up before I started the school. I grew up in the hills around here, in the forest around there, with my knife, with my boots, walking around, making a bow and making huts in the treetops and all that stuff of things. So for me, it's the most natural thing,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to be honest in this life, is to kind of portray the beauty of nature. And also that's a point for me. You know, I kind of, I was, you know, nature can be brutal, rough, merciless, uncompromising, wild, and all that stuff. But it's still not evil, you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
not evil. It's happening. But so I kind of tends to kind of, I want to kind of portray. I mean, I mean, Richard Dawkins. I don't agree with everything he writes, but
Yeah.
I especially likes his. He has a book called The Magic of Reality. You know, that is
Mm-hmm.
really up my sleeve. I don't remember if I agree on every sentence in that book, but I love that approach on the world, that, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
reality as it is,
Yeah.
that is the real magic. And if I transfer that kind of thinking to my music, let's say I have a trail going back my home, back my studio here into the mountains. I walk this trail probably 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah, something like that. And each and every time, even though I know this trail very good, each and every time there is a new sound, there is something new going on. You know, there is a certain change to it. And that's also something I wanted to bring into my music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hence the complexity of the music. I want people,
Mm-hmm.
when they listen to one song, they want to listen to it one more time, because the next time they listen to it, they might maybe hear a little bit different things. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
then they see the birds that they didn't see on the first trip, for example, or then they see the, you
Mm-hmm.
know, whatever happening. So I try both, you know, lyrically, but also musically,
Mm-hmm.
sound wise. So when it comes to my soundscape, I'm extremely inspired by the whole nature thing. You know, I love the uh, things sounds differently in the woods, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Just play, in fact, you walk through a forest up here. It very much, if you can make the same sound with something, and it, depending on where you stand in this forest, it makes a different chime, in a sense, you know. So it's this complexity of nature, this beauty of nature, this magic of reality is something I kind of, that is what I want to somehow project with through my music. And if I can get a few people around the globe to actually get a little bit of the same notion, the same experience, the same feel,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy boy.
Last time we talked, you mentioned that you have synesthesia, you know, where your senses are cross-wired. How does that play into the complexity of your music?
Yeah, that doesn't make even make more complex in one way. But on the other hand, it's you know, officially I don't know because I've never checked this synesthesia, but I guess because I've seen some documentaries about it. But in another way, it makes also, it's probably a tool for me now when I kind of look at it now,
Mm-hmm.
growing older and stuff like that. It's also a tool for me to single out, what can I say, a musical map.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my point, that when I kind of start thinking about the new album, I actually start thinking about the new album. That's more than just, okay, when are we recording? When are we doing? I'm kind of, I'm planning, pinning out or mapping out shapes and contours and you know, yeah, all kinds of, you know, I have, and it's extremely difficult for me to explain this
Uh-huh.
because it sounds like acid trip deluxe, but yeah, I think it kind of in my older age, it kind of helps me a little bit to navigate in my musical brain, in a sense, because I have very kind of crisp and clear mental maps of songs I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what else looks like an acid trip? The video for Summits, which I believe you made. First, can you tell me a little bit about the video? And also, I have a question about that song, but like, please, like, tell me about like the process of making the video and what inspired it.
You know, to be quite honest, it's a visualizer, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not really an official video. Just to
Okay.
make that clear, it's
Mm-hmm.
not promoted as a, you know, an official video. It's a visualizer. Actually, I had a friend of mine doing some still photos, but I actually did all the motion picture, so to speak. I did myself.
Mm-hmm.
The story behind it really is that, you know, it kind of started, or the idea I got with when Aileron Cantor did a cover with the waterfall,
Yes.
which I think turned out absolutely beautiful, and
Uh-huh.
it's both musically and lyrically, it's such a perfect match in my opinion. But another, a third dimension with the cover is that he captures something very personal with me, because when
Mm-hmm.
I was a young kid, I was spending a lot of summers in the mountains with my father because he was doing some maintenance on a farm that we have in our family. It's a kind of a farm from the 15th century, actually. It's one of the oldest farms in the whole of west coast of Norway. And close by this farm, and this farm, I don't remember if you remember the cover of Olden Domain.
Mm-hmm.
That picture was taken on this farm.
Okay.
Yeah, but when I got this picture of, or this cover from Aileron
Mm-hmm.
with a waterfall coming down up on you, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
it just chimed perfectly in me, because close by this farm there is a huge waterfall, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, I loved to just walk down there, and you could go very close to the waterfall to the degree that it's really dangerous. I mean, I wouldn't advise anyone to go that close as I do or did. But you can be killed. There is signs all the place. Don't walk here because you can be, you know,
Mm-hmm.
dragged into to the rivers and stuff. But that kind of, I got a very kind of nostalgic feeling about it, and how
Mm-hmm.
Elrond was able to capture just this childhood
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia thing from me. That was just mind blowing in a sense. He pinned it out. So when we were supposed to do a screener for this Summits, the first single, I was like, okay, I have to do something here. And I drove up 2 times, I guess, to the mountains to this waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
Freezing cold, like minus 20 degrees, at least the last time I was there.
Yo.
And you have water smashing in your face and the sound and everything. And I was filming actually with my phone. But it worked.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of, you know, the only thing I said to Aileron about the cover was that you know, you have full artistic freedom, but I wanted to portray the uncompromising wilderness of nature. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this brutal force, this power that is kind of relentless.
Mm-hmm.
And I, you know, I think that that was kind of the notion I also wanted to bring forth in this Summits video. That
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of should be a little bit, you know, sugated into it. You should kind of feel this kind of an almost like, I don't know, yeah, like acid trip kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I just wanted people to not really bother too much about the pictures or
Mm-hmm.
what's happening on the screen. I would
Mm-hmm.
rather use that the screener as a kind of yeah, what can I call it then? But just to follow.
Yeah.
But then kind of the main focus should be the music in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. So that was the kind of purpose of the whole thing, that they wanted to kind of try to, what's it called in English, try to, yeah, get people to get into the kind of meditative state or something like that, you know.
Okay.
It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
the
I
uh,
see.
intention. If we
Mm.
succeed, I don't know, but I think it's kind of cool anyway.
Oh, where did you find the artist?
You know, that was actually through Century Media. They had a
Okay.
kind of event going. It was a month before the deadline of the album,
Mm-hmm.
and they called me and, hey, Elron is a big fan and he really would like to do a cover for you guys at one time, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's too late now because it's only 1 month to deadline. I was like, yeah, let's see. And I called him, and
Mm-hmm.
it worked out. He was
Okay.
really into the project. He got some demo tapes, and because we hadn't finished the album at that point, he just had the demos. And he got the lyrics at that point, and he got some working titles for the album title, and that's basically it.
Okay. I think he did a fantastic job. That
Oh yeah,
artwork is mesmerizing. I love it.
yeah.
Um, I did have another question about summits. Like, I think that it's one of the high points in Borknagar's career, but
Mhm.
especially that ending. That ending, just like even the first time that I heard it, it stuck out, and it's not terribly complex, but it's still mind blowing. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came together?
Yeah, that song is kind of. I had this idea about summits as it's kind of lyrically wise, it's about finding, this struggle of finding your own kind of summit in life, your own
Hmm.
best potential. It's, might be climbing, Mount Everest or whatever, becoming a CEO of a company, whatever that is. It's up to the listener basically. But this very kind of classic
Hmm.
struggle of finding the best potential of yourself and fight and all that stuff. So I kind of wanted this song to be relentless, brutal, and straight to the point. The biggest, the biggest part of the song to be kind of in a smash in your face, like a waterfall, like you feeling overloaded in a sense.
Hmm.
It's harsh, it's spiky, it's kind of, yeah, all those things. And then I wanted kind of to loosen up the song, and
Hmm.
almost as if you kind of at some point reach the summit.
Hmm.
um, and try to kind of, through the music, try to kind of project this feeling of struggling your way up the mountains, rough terrain, rough weather, and everything. And all of a sudden, you come up on the top, and there is, clear weather, and the sun is shining, and everything, and you feel good about it. I
Hmm.
wanted to, somehow get that through in that song. So the last section of the song is kind of okay, kind of relaxing. We have to get the breath back. It's has been a tough ride, and let's breathe a little bit and just sit on a stone for a little bit.
Uh,
And then kind of comes this
yeah.
explosion kind of thing of the view and the power of being there,
Hmm.
feeling on the top of the world, and that kind of notion. So I kind of musically try to
Hmm.
kind of portray have pretty rough mountain trip, but eventually you get to the top in a sense.
Sir, you succeeded. That just amazing moment in your history. We are running out of time, so
Yeah.
in 1 minute, can you tell me, is Borknagar progressive metal?
My friend, I've tried my whole year, for 30 years now, to try to avoid all kinds of musical tags. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
care. I don't know. We are probably have some progressive elements. We probably have some folk elements. We probably
Hmm.
have some this and that. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But I've spent my whole year trying to avoid all these tags. So I don't know. Tell me. Tell me.
I think so, but you're the boss of the band. Øystein,
Yeah,
you've
I
been
don't know.
so generous with your time. Thank you so much. We're running out, but real
Yeah,
quick, I really, really hope that I don't have to wait 20 years to see you guys live again.
I can promise you, no, that won't happen.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure within a couple of years we'll be back in the US. I'm
Awesome.
pretty sure.
Awesome. I will see you on the road, my friend. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all the wonderful music.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the
Absolutely.
call.
Absolutely.
Take care.
You as
Bye
well.
bye.